And even you right now, this is bullshit. You just call me out. Period. And even you. Currently. Morning, folks. Let's go. Whap. Hey guys, whoever's here, I'll be starting in about 5 minutes. I'm just getting this out there. How you guys doing? Feel free to comment. Let's talk a little bit while we kill some time. Yeah. How do I sound? Sound all right? Do I sound good? Hopefully I sound good. Hey, Officer Carlos, how you doing? How you doing? This is gonna be fun. I hope. Like I said, it's gonna be a nice little presentation. Long short story, I'm going to be explaining my freelance history, some of the mentalities, and just some of the ideas. So I hope you like it. Yeah. Woo, yeah, that's the plan. That is my plan. So we are going to go in like 2 minutes here. It's gonna give 2 more minutes, and then we're just gonna really get rolling. But yeah, hey, I should actually get you to come back on the show. It's been a while, so maybe when this is over, we'll talk. Do 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 do. Do, 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 do. Yeah, I know. I broke 800. Hey, everybody. Hi, Writer Greg. Right. Hi, Writer Greg. Hi, everybody. I'm just going to wait 2 more minutes, and then we're going to really get rolling. All right. So anyway, does anyone write? Hey, Writer Greg. So does anyone want to see my drawing of a glorious glitter dragon? I actually did a Kickstarter thing. I actually learned some lessons here. I will talk about this because this was a success and a failure. But here, let's see what you guys think. Since we are waiting for another minute here. Da, 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 da. Does he look angry? Yeah. Does he look angry? I hope he does. I hope he does. Nice. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I figure well, your weekend has been probably crazy, Sarah, so far. I figure you've probably been doing it. He is. He is. The story, by the way, is publishing a Kickstarter. It's about a dragon that it's magic cards get altered by artists all the time. So the story is, what if we got a card didn't like how it was altered? And for him, it was the glitter that sent him over the top. So it actually it's getting published. It's kind of cool. So, all right. So we're gonna wait like 10 more seconds here, and then we're going to get started. All right. So we're going to grab a drink. Actually, wait a minute. Go grab a drink, use the bathroom, whatever. You guys are ready, and I'm just gonna say ready, and then we're just gonna rock and roll. We're gonna rock and or roll here. So, oh, and yeah, remind me when this is done. Autographs if you want. Just let me know where I send this recording to you guys. If you guys want to use it on your Conduit 10, you can. I'll be putting it up on my YouTube channel as well. But I mean, just for you guys, just let me know where. Just Facebook me when this is over, and we'll figure out where I can send it, and I'll send you guys a Google Drive somewhere, and you can access it. Yep. All right. I'm a little nervous. It's been a while since I've done one of these little panels, so I hope I don't make too much of an ass of myself. But we'll have some fun. So but we're gonna go in kind of a order. We'll officially get started here. Welcome everybody. My name is Josh Pintelresco. I am a freelancer. Right. So basically, what's going on here is I'm going to be talking about freelancing. So before we begin, I'm going to say there's probably 3 kinds of people in this room. There might be more, but I'm going to talk about the 3 here. Most people here are probably writers looking to make a living with their work in some form or fashion. Now, there are different levels to it. Some of you are here because it's a side income. You have a great job. You're happy with your life, and nothing wrong with that. Just this is a side hustle for you. And there's definitely some things for you here. Some of you are writing primarily for a hobby. You're releasing books and stuff like that, but it's not a priority for you. And some of you are doing this because this is your priority. And it's going to be primarily to this audience I'm going to be talking to. But that is not to say that there isn't going to be stuff for everybody else to use either. But just for the purposes of this conversation, assume I am talking to the third group primarily. The second and the first groups, I'm still going to be talking to, but not to the same degree. So let's just get this out of the way right now. So depending on why you're here, what you're looking for, if you're in one of these categories, just be honest about where you stand. It's actually going to be one of the things we're talking about too up front. But anyways, this is about you wanting to become a freelancer. And I kind of made that decision to become a freelancer in March 2020 when the pandemic actually happened. My initial plan, just so you understand, I was going to be quitting my day job anyway. I had done it for way too long, and I wanted to do something different. And my initial plan was to get into the movie industry in Vancouver. Unfortunately, we had this thing called a pandemic, so that was no longer a viable option. So I still did not want to stay at my job, and I made the decision to actually go back home and figure out this freelancing thing. And and a lot of people right then and there get stuck, like, oh my God, I'm going to be a freelancer. Oh, what the heck am I going to do? And that's an excellent question. And it's probably the first thing I'm going to talk about here. So freelancing can literally be anything. It doesn't have to be, it can be writing, art, podcasting. It can be anything you want to do. There are a lot of freelancers that serve the writing community. Like we're talking editors, proofreaders, beta readers, publicity, advertising. I do advertising. I advertise creatives about highlighting their work because a lot of creatives don't want to do that sort of thing. And that's kind of a choice I've made. And we're going to talk about advertising a little bit in this, not just because of what I'm doing, but because I think all of us need to be doing it. But basically, but the thing about this is, you have kind of like, I think the hardest thing, there's two very big mentality blocks everybody that breaks into freelancing has to overcome. The first one is, what the hell do I do? And for the first 6 months, I tried everything. And one of the things I did was, for example, I tried to manage a Kickstarter campaign. I'm not ever doing that for that little money ever again. Holy crap, that's a lot of work. But I think I should at this point mention kind of the first hurdle is the biggest struggle, I think, in terms of what to do is figuring out what you want to do. Anything theoretically can make you money. Some of you make money on Twitch streaming, writing. Some of you do that. Some of you make money. Some of you make money doing like writing for articles, magazines, fiction. All of this stuff is freelancing in some form or fashion. I've done the same thing. And some of you are serving, some of you are editing, some of you like some of the other things. And one of the most important things you got to do when you start this is narrow down your pathway to try to figure out what you want to do. And hopefully, and I guess the two big pieces of advice I'm going to give you guys up front about that sort of thing is, if you can, figure out what you love to do. And I know that sounds really easy. How do you do that? But if you have come this far, chances are there's something you love or something you feel compelled to do. So whatever that is, like I said, look at what your skills you have doing this thing. What are you good at? What aren't you good at? And try to narrow down something you like to do that you're really, really good at. It sounds freaking simple. It's not. It really isn't. It took me about 8 months to figure out that the podcast was going to be the way I make my money, primarily as a freelancer. Not always directly, but also indirectly as well with some of the other things I do. It's led to me getting all kinds of jobs, but I had to make that decision, and it took me approximately 6 months into my freelance career to figure this out. So it's not like this came to me magically overnight, and it's hard. Like trying to narrow that stuff down is very, very difficult, but that's probably the first and most important thing. What do you want to do? Narrow down your services to what you want to do. And probably during this period, you are going to try all kinds of things. I've tried audiobooks, managing Kickstarters, writing for publications, which I still do. And, some other services as well, like editing, proofreading, and that kind of stuff too. Right. So this kind of stuff, this might be the hardest thing. Pick something to specialize in and focus on trying to build your business. That's what essentially is what you're doing, is you're building your business, side hustle, whatever it is. Pick one thing and get started and give it a legitimate, honest try. I realized probably November, this is 6-7 months into me being a freelancer, that I should probably make the podcast my focus to make money. And it took me a while to really, really, really figure this out. And that's when I started streaming on Twitch. And that opened all kinds of doors for me. For starters, I did a show for a corporation. I built an immigration show YouTube show. You can go, it's the myconsultant.ca show. Season 1 has my fingerprints all over it. I built a show from scratch. My doing this show here led to that. It's also led to me making, like I said, commercial videos for clients. So there's that. So first thing is figuring out exactly what you want to do, whatever that is. And don't be afraid to try and stumble and go through the process, because you will. You'll try some things and some of it's not going to work. And you're going to have to accept that too. Some of this stuff isn't going to work. What I'm currently doing now, where this has led me, I might change this before it's all said and done. Like there's nothing, like you got to build your brand. You got to kind of just go with it. So that's the first thing. Second thing is much harder. And that's really this. It's the fact that for the first year I did this, in the back of my head, and this is I think hits everybody that wants to go all in on this. What if I fuck this up? What if I screw up? What do I do then? How does that work? And that mentality probably cost me, making me a ton of money. It's a mindset thing. When I talk about mindset, that is probably the biggest thing I had to change. So what ended up happening for the first time after about 10 months, 9 months, even when I started doing the podcasting on a regular thing, I had to go back to get some work because I had run out of money and I had to do something to do something, right? And so what ended up happening is I would get jobs and I would one way or the other find myself losing them, right? Sometimes just rings on Charles, sometimes it's me, whatever. It took me until about July of last year to really figure out this bad boy out. And that is, I had to get rid of that mindset of what if I fuck up? You have to get rid of that mindset. And that is probably, again, that took me a year and a bit to really, really understand this. I went from, I'm going to make this work, is now my own thing. I'm going to figure this out one way or the other, no matter what's in front of me, no matter what I face, no matter what I see, I am going to make this work. And I've made more money with that focus ever since. I have broken 4 figures on a regular basis when I made that change. In fact, the very week after I did this, I made more money that week than I ever have in my life. And that's not to say this is always going to happen, but but I cannot stress this enough. Being afraid is a natural thing. It totally is, especially because, again, you're going off into the unknown and you're going to embrace the uncomfortable when you are a freelancer, whatever you choose to do. The big thing is, though, in that thing, you have to have a thing about self-worth and self-belief. And one of the things about that is you got to believe you're going to succeed. Even if in the face of failure, you have to have that confidence, whatever you choose to do. And that might be the most difficult part of the game to master internally, is that mindset of, I can do this. I will do this. I'm not going to say I'm going to fuck it up. I'm way past that. I am going all the way, right? Whatever bumps come my way, I'm just going to keep rolling through it. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going forward. That is the fundamental battle. Probably the other big thing, besides choosing whatever your specialty is, you have to figure out exactly where you stand. Like, you got to have that belief you can do it. And that is not easy when you're going out there going, what am I doing? But if you can come to terms with that, come to peace with that, you will get more work. Doesn't matter what the economy is. It's a big thing of self-worth. So, and that is what you're saying when you're going out to be a freelancer, that your services are worth money. And ironically, you have to believe it. If you don't, you're not going to get anything. And even with belief, it's still hard. But at least you're giving yourself the best chance to succeed. And we'll come back to that in a minute. So now, you figured out the mastery. You figured out what you're going to do. So where do you go from there? First thing you do is you research it. You want to see what the going rate is. Actually, scratch that. We're going to go with this first. Who do you want to serve? This is an important question too. Whether you're writing for a big magazine, whether you're writing for ghostwriting, which is a very viable freelancing career choice, whether you're deciding to serve these writers or serve these creatives in some form or fashion, like I'm doing, you have to come to terms with the fact that you have to come to terms as who in this group do you want. I'm going to use my advertising business, for example, right? Because what I do is I interview clients, I make videos that helps brand their products or themselves. Because a lot of law authors hate the idea of advertising, but it's a necessary evil. And because it's a necessary evil, and I'm good at talking people up. A couple of people have been on my show, they'll tell you I build people up incredibly well. So why is this a useful skill? I'm creating assets for you so you can talk about yourselves. Who do I want to serve? That is going to be people in the mid-list. I don't want new authors. Most new authors don't understand the value of advertising. And so my price points have nothing to do. New authors will probably stay away from me. My price points also probably scare away some mid-listers, but mid-listers are my target. Mid-listers are higher because those are the people that are going to take what I do seriously. Those are the people that I want to serve. So my price points deal with that. And speaking of, we're going to get to price point now for whatever you choose to do. I'm going to go back to my Kickstarter because it was my worst client. And then the biggest lesson, some of that's my fault. There is communication breakdown, period, in that whole thing. I take some of the blame for that, and they should definitely need to take some of the blame for that. But the biggest lesson I learned is one of the regular reasons why I wasn't taken as seriously as I do was my price point. I was too cheap. And this is going to sound this was probably the very first lesson I've learned in this game was this. Your price point equals respect, equals expertise. And this seems very counterintuitive. You would think that people who pay more would be like, oh, I'm going to stay away from you. No. Sometimes your price point will actually draw them into you. But also it goes something like this. And this is a very important thing. You love what you do, right? I mentioned earlier, pick something you really love that you do. You want to keep loving what you do. Your price point should be something, whatever audience you choose to go after, your price point should be something you are comfortable doing without resenting doing that job. Because if you resent doing what you love, sooner or later, you're going to resent what you love. And that's a terrible place to be in mentally. It's terrible. It's why you escaped the day job. It's why you wanted to do this to begin with. You wanted to love this. Well, that means you're going to have to set your price points to a point where you feel like you're being respected for what you do. A lot of authors make the mistake of underselling their worth. I mean, look at what we sell our books on Amazon, $3, right? One of the things about your price point is going to draw a particular audience to you. Always, always, always. Doesn't matter whether you're selling a book or whether they're selling a service or whether they're selling a writing. Your price point is going to draw a very specific audience to you. And this is very important to understand. And if you want to go after a certain audience, you're going to have a price point that matches accordingly. This might be, like I said, it's the most counterintuitive lesson I learned doing this. But it's probably one of the most important. Whatever you love, whatever you do, ask yourself a legitimate question. No worries. Sorry about that. But the thing is, you are going out there, you are putting your work out there, and you have to love what you do. It's a very big thing, and that price point is going to protect you. It's also going to protect you from some crazy guys that are going to come at you and go, hey, about that work, I wasn't quite happy with this. Like all these little things that can make you resent it. Your price point can protect you from that to some degree. And it leads to the other side of that, not just price point, but also you gotta stop doing this stuff for free. And that was something very early on. A friend of mine, another freelancer, gave me advice on. It's like whatever you do when you decide to become a freelancer, you have to stop doing stuff for free. And again, this comes down to respect. It has nothing to do with this is why they say the money is not important, but it kind of is. People respect you based on the price point you go by. And if you're going after to make a living doing this, right? If if you're making a living doing this, then you have to make a legitimate, honest decision of what you're going for. Because an author guys, like there are editors that charge thousands of dollars for their service. And the reason they do that is because they're going after. So in terms of authors, there are people like Jonas Saul, right, the top of the line, like Jonas Saul, Faith Hunter, some big names that make really big money doing this. Their price points are going to reflect going after them. Other price points are going after mid-list authors. There's a lot of great mid-list authors out there that are looking for good clients and service. Those things need to be really, really thought of. So how do you determine your price point? Well, there's two parts to that, and that's this. First is obviously do some research, because you need to see what you're doing. What you're doing is compared to other people. And again, keep in mind, what audience do you want to go for? Because there's a very, very specific audience that kind of that's what you're going after. My video service is going after mid-list authors primarily. Why? Because I think they take it more seriously than people that are just getting started or people that don't want to advertise or work at all. I don't want to deal with them at all. So my price points reflect that. Now, and I say that as I'm about to actually raise my rates, because I've been advised by people what I'm doing, I'm still charging too little. So anyway, how do you determine? The other part of it is this. Close your eyes and let's ask yourself this question. How much is it going to cost me to do this service without resenting it? And just listen to yourself. Whenever that feeling of resentment goes away, that is your price point. Now I'm going to give you a little piece of advice. Go 10% higher. Why? You can negotiate down to that resentment point, whatever that is. If you have to, at that point, you give yourself some free room to negotiate, and someone might just agree to that price. Bully, you made more money. Great. Simple thing. All right. So we talked price points. We've talked that. So let's talk firing clients, because sometimes you're going to have to do that too. And so there are 4 reasons to fire a client. Exactly 4. Now I'm going to go exactly. Author guys, 10% sales are king, but also that's why you set your price points the way you do. You set them to the point where you don't resent lowering your price either. Just be smart about this, right? Now, let's talk about firing clients, because sometimes you're going to have to. Because in spite of everything I just said, you're still going to be either you're going to evolve beyond them, they're going to, right? Or sometimes you're going to still deal with problematic clients. So what do? There are 4 reasons to fire a client. They all stem from the same problem. We'll get to that, but I'm going to talk about them in order of forgiveness. Here's the first one. They're not ready. Honestly, you know what? This could be a lot of different things, right? This could be a lot of different things, but this one's easily by far the most forgivable. Sometimes you're going to deal with someone with the right attitude, but it's the wrong time. They're just not ready. I've been there. I've been that client. I've also had to let go of people for the same reason. They're not ready. I'm never mad at that. It's just, it's one of those situations personally where I kind of go, okay. 2, emotional instability. This one's tricky. There's degrees of this. With everything going on right now, everything that said, it's very easy to peel people that are struggling mentally. Mental health is a thing. And that's why I put this as number 2, most forgiving, because we all have struggles sometimes, and it's totally understandable. However, there is such a thing, though, is what are you carrying off your client? You might not be able to deal with it. And that's an honest thing. And you have to be okay with that. They have to be okay with that. And it's, like I said, that one's tricky. So 2, 3, they don't listen to you. This one is usually a giant red flag. So I'm going to go back to my Kickstarter client, because my Kickstarter actually did 3 of these 4. Emotional instability is I'll get to the last one. But I was hired to advertise a Kickstarter campaign. But one of the things I was asking for is this was an anthology series. So I list of authors, and I wanted the date when we were starting, because when a Kickstarter, your date of starting is a launch date, and you can actually use it like a book launch date for your stuff too, if you market correctly. I never got that information, right? I never got that information at all. So it made it very hard for me, who wants to market your campaign, to do anything beyond an initial pitch, because I had no information. I found out about the author names like at a event I didn't even know. It was like, wait, what? And I'm supposed to be the one advertising this. And then when I wanted to go meeting to talk about some things about the Kickstarter, they no showed. So I fired them because I just didn't think they were serious enough. Which leads to number 4. They don't do any of the things you suggest you do. Now, 3 and 4, I find are far less forgiving. 3, they might have a better idea. It is possible. And honestly, cool. You can always learn from the people you work with. Always. And sometimes that's a great thing. But when they're not going to do what you're saying, it's going to sabotage the results you're going to go for, whatever they are. And in this case, since I know there are editors here, sometimes you realize that the author's going to make their own suggestions with their work. That's not what I'm talking about. It's when they don't do any of the work to get better, not listening to you in anything. You have to let these clients go. You have to. Yeah, right. So when you get to 1, 2, 3, 4, these are all fireable offenses. You can always walk away. A lot of this can be fixed, though. The big problem with that is communication. Now, there's a failure of communication somewhere, somehow, some way. And that is the result of, that can be the result of, how do I put this? You can make mistakes. I made mistakes with this client too. I'm not saying this was all the client's fault. I didn't emphasize how important some of this stuff was enough. And that's on me. But the fact is, right, again, this sounds like if this sounds like a terrible client, it was, right? And what was worse is they were a friend. So I kind of lost a friendship over this. But I learned a very, very valuable lesson. All of this to say is you are not here to be abused. This isn't what you're doing. You're doing what you love, right? And that's the thing, right? That's the big thing about this is you do not want to. This is hard enough without actually dealing with resentment for what you do. And like I said, I've been a client that's made this mistake too. I have made this mistake the hard way. I've learned this the hard way. I've done that to somebody. I regret it. It's one of those things that you learn as you go in this life. But yeah, keep in mind, if you are a client, keep in mind that the person you is working with is wanting to probably 9 times out of 10 is trying to do the best it can to get the job done, whatever that is. 9 times out of 10. So do keep in mind. But also, if you're a freelancer and you have a problem, raise your hand, talk about it, try to get your client's attention. Sometimes the client may not realize what they're doing. And if that's the case, you should just have a conversation, open things up. Also, sometimes projects change. When I did my book, The Watcher, I hired an artist to illustrate. Well, the project was more complex than she anticipated. And she was smart enough just to voice her opinion to me. It's like, hey, listen, this is more work than I thought. Can we talk? So we did. Always be open for that. Always be open for that conversation. Always be open for that possibility. Always be open to, communicate. Always communicate. Try to avoid getting to these 4 steps. Right? Also, keep in mind with these 4 things, they also apply to you as a freelancer. You can be fired for these things too. So do make sure you understand, right? Communication is paramount. You keep your relationships that way. You just do. All right. So what's the other part of your job? Now that you've made the decision, you've figured out your price points. And that's the very, very, very monotonous job of advertising your work. You got to do it every single day. This your business model on some level is going to be get up, talk about my cool thing, right? Well, fantasine, that falls under number 2, right? Reason number 2 or reason number 1 to get rid of them. And at that point, after a certain point, oh, at least maybe I'll just talk about this really briefly. A way to get around that is have a revision step in your process. So when I do my videos, I give the client 2 opportunities to do a revision. That's it. They can do what they can say what they want, do what they want. But after the second time, we're good. Right? Or they pay me more money. It's that simple. Right? Otherwise you are always going to be dealing with that perfectionism. Anything you do not do for free. Now, obviously, you have to have good service, and we'll come to that later, but protect yourself. What is your revision process worth? Everything. Think about everything you're doing, the work, the time, the effort, the energy you were putting into this. Because a lot of authors sell themselves short, a lot of them. And this is why I say price points are so important for you. This is how you're going to protect yourself from a lot of what you guys are talking about here, right? So saying all that, hi to my roommate, everybody. Right, saying all that, you have to understand, right? You're going to put yourself out there, and there are going to be people that will not value you. And making those decisions early on will try to minimize that. But it's okay to walk away. It's always okay to walk away. You just got to again, it does take some guts to do that, especially since you may not have an easy guaranteed income. That's one of the downsides of freelancing, and we'll get to that in a little bit as well. But let's talk about the next 2 steps, which is you're going to be advertising every single day something. I advertise my podcast all the time. It's my platform. I do it every single day. I do a stream every single day. I post an episode on my audio. You can find me all over on social media. You'll just find, hey, my newest episode, my newest column, my newest this, my newest that. Every single day I advertise. Every single day you are going to have to advertise too. Every single day. It is going to be part of your game, right? You're going to spend at least a little time creating content to let people know that you're out there. And since we are going to talk about that little thing, we're going to talk about the future economy for a really brief second, because I think we all know where this is going in terms of the economy in a matter of months. So here's the thing. Keep advertising. When times are tough, when times get tough, companies actually spend more on advertising during those times, not less. The reason being is they realize that people have to discern where they're going to put their money. And if they're aware that, and they always put money into their businesses and they invest because they always want to be out in the public eye as much as they possibly can be, because when people do discern or do come to money, they will look to things they know that are already out there. Advertising is an essential part of business. Now, depending on your economy, your budget, finances, whatever, how you advertise may be different from time to time. But in tough times, you actually should advertise more, not less, right? Do not back away from putting yourself out there. It's going to be harder to get the work, but the work will always be there. Doesn't matter how bad the economy gets. But you gotta always. This is what you need to understand. This is what big companies do. This is what you need to do, right? Don't ever stop. It's annoying. It's monotonous. It is probably the biggest part of the job that you're going to go like, ugh. But you have to. It's a big thing, right? So that's what I'm saying. And as far as that, I did not plan that. So here's the thing. So saying all that, what I want to say is keep advertising. So here's the other thing. Whatever you choose to do, whether you're writing, whatever it is, the big other thing is customer service. You're in the service industry. This is very much is a service job, right? This isn't that's what you are. You are customer service. You're just serving your product, your intellectual property, whatever the case may be, right? And This is important, and this is something that that needs to kind of be said, that needs to kind of be done, is you're serving. So how do you best do your service? How can you be customer friendly? Whether that's deals, whether that's your relationships. That's the other really, really big important thing. When you do your job, you do the best job you can. And I mean, this may sound monotonous, to something you already know, but this is something you just, as a keep in mind thing. Your job is to put the best service out there possible. And there's a lot of ways of doing it: relationships, saying hi, interaction, networking, all that stuff. Right. And this is important. And that's going to be your job. Going into the next year is probably going to be one of the hardest years for all of us, regardless of where we're at in the grand scheme of things. And you got to keep going. You got to keep doing. You got to keep working. And this is the job. Day in, day out, no questions asked, whatever you choose to do. Which I guess leads, I'm almost done, folks. This is actually this went quicker than I thought it would. So these are the things I've learned in the last year. Now, saying all this, will it all magically work out? Not necessarily. But I'm going to tell you what I'm doing right now. I just finished a advertising campaign with an author, J.D. Taylor. You can go on my TikToks, my YouTubes, all that stuff. You can see those videos. Really, really proud of those. A really cool branding thing I did with her. I'm getting paid to play a card game right now. So one of my freelance gigs, I get to do that tomorrow, which is kind of really a lot of fun. I'm obviously looking for clients. It's always another big part of the job is you're always going to be going forward and you're always going to be looking for work. And this is a lesson I just learned recently. When you are busy and you are doing well, you got to keep looking, because that can change like that. You can go from doing very well to, I don't know when my next check's coming. It can happen fast. And that can be overnight. So it's one of those things where you have to be aware of this. You never stop looking for work. You never stop looking for clients. You never stop advertising. I mean, hell, this is a commercial for me as much as it is for everyone watching here, right? This is me telling you about what I'm doing and what I'm offering. So this is marketing. This is advertising. There's also a presentation. And everybody's doing this at Conduit right now. It's the same thing. They're doing the same thing. They're offering their services, their books. It's an advertising. It's just not maybe, please buy my stuff. It's not quite like that. But that's what you're doing all the time, and you're showing the service. All right. Did I miss anything? Actually, you know what? Let's just go to the floor. Does anyone have any questions? It depends on what you're doing. It also depends on what clients you're going for. I mean, this comes down to this. You can organically advertise. TikTok, YouTube, Snapchat, Instagram. You can do a lot of organic things that way. You also have your network. Actually, I mean, I'll mention this too. You know people. Every one of you knows somebody that is in this industry in some form or fashion. It's okay to go to somebody, like Author Goddess here, say, hey, Author Goddess, I got this business here. I'm trying to advertise creatives here. You know someone that's trying to get their work out there? Ask around. Work with people to get yourself out there. I was just in an interview with Larry P. Higgins, and he talks about the fact that he has a whole bunch of buddies, and they're doing Kickstarter stuff. But hey, it's still about brand building and building an audience and all that stuff. And a whole bunch of them, they put ads in each other's books. They work together to advertise their stuff in as many different ways as possible. So low, medium. So it again, it depends on your services too. It depends on your services. We're gonna go with editing, for example. What are the best ways to advertise at low, medium, high price points? So low, social media. Social media minimum. You can do, I would recommend, if you are doing stuff in that regard, I would suggest the ones I've had the most success on are LinkedIn, TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram. I do a lot of different things, but I mean, I'm doing a very visual thing, so my visual stuff shows. and to a lesser degree Facebook when I'm doing my blog stuff. But that all said, like, social media is the low medium point. You can do a lot on social media. You can build content there. Medium, well, for you, I would be going to book reviewers, right? Book reviewers are a very good place to advertise your services at, because people go to these book review sites and do these book tours and stuff like that. And when you see those people going there, like, that is where your audience is. Hi, there are authors that spend thousands of dollars a month advertising, depending on how high up the totem pole, and that's Amazon ads, Facebook ads, Twitter. Like, they do that. Like, thousands is not outside the realm of possibility. But again, they're advertising a specific service or project or book, right? So the ad game, in terms of Facebook ads, I don't have good answers to you of what exactly is the ideal strategy for Facebook. The algorithms changed and a few other things, but it is very easy to take copy. Okay, I'll mention that in a minute too. It's very easy to take ad copy and do a multiple different ads and do multiple different things on Facebook to kind of see what works. But you're going to be putting some money into that. It's going to be a bit of trial and error to figure out what works. Amazon ads are the same way. It's a bit of trial and error to kind of see what it works. It's not unheard of, but again, it's not unheard of to spend hundreds or thousands of dollars if you're really serious about the advertising. It's not unheard of. But I mean, obviously go within your budget, go with what works for you. The important thing is that you're getting yourself out there and you invest in yourself as you go. So I'm going to mention one final thing here, and then she brought that question up, and that's this. Most people here, whether you're an author, whether you're a creative of some kind, I would recommend learning how to do some ad copy. Ad copy is going to be able to draw and persuade your audiences, and you have your websites, your newsletters, and stuff like that. You can actually at that point use those skills to try to persuade your people. Well, author guys, I mean, it's the nature of the game. If you're serious about this, you're gonna have to at some point invest in yourself. That's where I'm at too. I grow only as much as I can invest, but again, do what you can. There's lots of clever ways of advertising. Intelli-influence is a very underused service. There are people that do really, really neat things in the indie world for very little. There are some bang for your bucks, but assume some trial and error. You're going to probably be throwing money down a hole a little bit doing this, but it's about finding what works. But again, it never stops from an organic point of view. But I also recommend every single person here learn to do some ad copy. On a personal note, the back of your book is ad copy. So it'll make, if you are writing and releasing books, it'll make the back of your books better too. So just a little FYI. Any other questions? For what it would, again, it depends on what you decide to do. So we mentioned a few different things. There's again, freelancing, it can literally be anything. So one of the simplest ways is your own social media circles. Discord, Conduit. There's a lot of you guys on Conduit. I don't know how often you guys talk during when this is not going on, but the fact of the matter is, this is a place to make opportunities, make contacts, and make people. And there's always people that are looking for work. For me, my podcast has indirectly given me a ton of work because people know who I am. People will ask me to do stuff. Like, I just did a comic book script for a future Kickstarter project because of this podcast. I did people know me. And that has value. My advertising business, the fact that I have this platform, my audio podcast broke 2,000 listens, downloads not too long ago in a week, right? And I average thousands of people listen to the show regularly anyway. So what it comes down to is, like, I've created a platform where I make some noise. So a lot of times some more comes to me. Sometimes I chase it. Sometimes it chases me. It kind of goes both ways at this point for me, which is nice. But for anyone getting started, what's your service? I don't do that as a general rule of thumb, but I have it like in my particular case, fantasy. I have an idea of what my work for example, the video thing I do, right? To do 30 pieces of content is a 40-hour work week. And just to give people an idea, I charge $25 an hour for that, or I will be as of Monday, right? Because branding is worth even far more than that, but that's the minimum time. You're looking at $25 an hour to put the videos together. I have a skill set few people don't have, and I do that. So again, I figured out what I did the old-fashioned way. I timed it. But for everybody, I mean, get into like there are a few that do that. I know one person that I know tools to kill your social media more than save you time that way. There's some really good tools for that, and I could recommend those for you. But yeah, in terms of like personally, there's no software, but I do make a personal point to calculate how long it takes me to do a job. Right? I do make that point, so I do have an idea of what to charge. I just do it the old-fashioned way. I just do it. I'll try something I want to do, and I'll figure out how long it takes me to do it. Anyone else? Okay, so author goddess. Okay, so again, mentality mindset. So anxiety. Promoting myself is easy. I have a big mouth, author goddess. I do it for a living. So even though I'm half kidding with that. You have to come to terms with the fact that this is a mindset thing. You have to come to terms that you are worth something. I hope the lesson I've put in this so far, the biggest mindset thing as a freelancer is your work is valuable. It's super valuable. You have taken the time, effort, energy, and put in the work and discipline to master or be very good at something that not many people are good at. And I keep that in mind. And I remember that I love what I do, whether I am interviewing somebody and figuring out what makes them tick and what's their story and why it's awesome. And that's why I'm ironically into sales and advertising. Sales is ironically about storytelling and relationship building. But again, we're not talking about necessarily sales, but that's what you got to think about in those terms. So I think that's valuable, and I think I'm valuable, and I remember that I'm valuable, and that's a very and that's what makes it easier to promote. And again, this is something, and that's for negotiating money. This is why it's important to figure out what you resent. Because if you have a feeling of resentment, then that anxiety is going to pale in comparison to that feeling. So while it feels, I'll give you an example right now. I am negotiating with a game company to advertise a game, and they want a very ambitious project, and they expect me to come up with a very ambitious proposal. I'm going to be charging more money. I'm going to be asking for more money to do this job than I've ever asked for anybody. And the reason I have confidence of doing that because I realized that this is going to be my life. Like I just look at the consequences if I don't. If I sell myself short and I end up resenting doing this, then I'm not going to create the best product I possibly can. I'm not going to create the best service I possibly can. And I have to treat that those things are going to eventually put food on my table. So that anxiety of, well, maybe they're going to walk away. They might. And you got to accept the fact, too, that they are going to possibly walk away from you. But that's okay. The other big part of this is, as you keep going into this, is you're going to be filtering out people that you don't want to work with. As much as these price points are about filtering out. The more someone's willing to pay you, the more they're going to, more likelihood, treat you well. Or at the very least, you're going to be compensated for dealing with, how to not swear here, dealing with the trials and tribulations that sometimes come with being a freelancer. You're going to be at least compensated for those. So I came to the conclusion that I love what I do more, And I'm not going to let that I'm not worth it enter my bid. No, I'm going to make this worth my time to do. And I'm going to do the best service I possibly can. And I'll be damned if I'm going to let anyone talk me out of my worth. And you got to have that same attitude. You're worth something. That may mean you're going to walk away from some of the clients you've had. The biggest hole is figuring out I said this at the beginning, is what if I mess this up? It's in the back of your head because you're going out completely out of your comfort zone. And you don't have that steady income, which is the downside of freelancing. There are still months, even today, I don't make money. And that's a downside. Now, sometimes I make huge money. I think I think the most interesting thing about being a freelancer is there's been weeks where I've gotten 1 week I got 6 different paychecks in one week. Never seen anything like that in my life. Every day I got paid. It was fantastic. But on the downside is there's sometimes there are weeks you see nothing. Like you literally will see nothing. And it's a hole. And even saying all this, I mean, I may end up getting a part-time job even now every so often just to make sure ends are met, right? Short and sweet, for at least in a short-term basis. But I guess maybe the answer is you stop. The biggest thing is at some point in this journey, you're going to have to stop seeing yourself as an employee and as a businessman or woman or whatever gender pronoun you use, right? You are a business. You are an entrepreneur, and you're selling a service. You are not an employee. You are not there to do the bidding of an employer, and you are here to do a service or do a job. And that's a very different mindset than being afraid that you're going to get fired. You're not here for that. You're here to do a job. That's it. And that's probably what I think kills more freelancers than anything else. Any more questions? Okay, I'm going to wait 30 seconds and then I'm going to get to. So the hardest part is the beginning, doing jobs. I've been very fortunate. Like I've just started the video business. I've done 2 clients, authors Kat Flannery and author Jay Taylor. They're both exactly the audience I'm looking for. So one of the biggest tips I have is obviously social media. Get started that way. But also, I mean, build a web page that shows your work, shows your jobs. Because the more jobs you do, the easier it is going to be to find more work. One job leads to another job, and then once it's a certain traction, it becomes more regular, or as regular as it gets as a freelancer anyway. Building and obviously that comes down to your customer service more than anything else. It's going to be your customer service. It's going to be the work. It's going to be the relationship you build with the people you work with. Because if you create a great impression, they are going to tell everybody. And that's how this goes. That is the easiest way to build and promote your reputation. That is your clients. And if your clients might be terrible at advertising, so at the same as much as you may be, but at the same time, they will tell their friends you were great. Hey, I know this person. Her name's Sarah. She's awesome at editing. She's awesome at this. And they'll refer their friends, right? That's a big thing. Like you will constantly draw work. And once you do that, but getting to that point, advertising, creating a campaign for yourself, various different ways. Like I said, that's why I said learn ad copy. Ad copy is wonderful. You can use that to build graphics and words. So again, Instagram, all these things can be used to build yourself on the cheap. But yeah, also just your customers, getting quotes from them. That tends to help. And Yes. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. It's that, and most of them, especially if you do a good service, won't mind. They understand. It's part of the business. I'm going to talk about one thing I just that really, really quick, and that's this. There's a very fine line between your with price points, between pricing yourself to protect yourself and pricing yourself out of the market. And you're probably going to straddle that line a little bit, right? You're going to straddle that line, and you're probably going to make some mistakes that way. I will, again, I say this very, very much so. You're doing this because you love to do this. If it gets to the point that you have to bring your prices down, but you end up resenting doing it, find something else to do, or you'll end up hating this just as much as you hated what you did to get away from this to begin with. Your price points are to protect you, not to make it so you can't eat. That's not the idea. So that's why ultimately I say find what you love to do. So a client could ruin your business. Here's the thing. You're going to have bad experiences with clients sometimes. So the question I think you need to ask yourself is this: did you do the best service? And just be honest, and there's a little self-criticality here. Did you do the best business you could? I mentioned this really bad client I had at the beginning. I had a really, really bad experience with them in terms of a client. I don't, they never were going to ruin me, but they could have, if they wanted to. I'm sure they did privately to some people. That guy isn't worth working for. Blah 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 blah. You can bounce back, right? But also the thing is too, like being very critical about what I could do better. Every failure is a learning experience. Is kind of how I treat this, and that's important because if you are doing this and you're doing this in a way that I truly believe your intentions will overcome that bad client. If your work ethic is genuine and authentic, it will outshine even a bad job. The worst they will be able to say about you is you weren't ready then. Practice changes everything. It really does. Any more questions? Yes, I do. I actually, with what my advertising business, for example, currently it's on my WordPress. I am meeting with a gentleman tonight or tomorrow night, and I am discussing where I'm going to be putting my website for this business because it would be served better on a website. And this comes to investment, right? This does come to investment. And the other thing too, I'm also going to recommend a newsletter on this one, folks. You need to have a place where your own platform is. You need to have your own platform somewhere, some way, because social media can be wonky. I mean, I got a warning for on Facebook because I used crackers, and I'm talking like Ritz crackers, right? As a term, I got a warning on Facebook for that. So the algorithms for these social media platforms are wonky, and the algorithms are not necessarily the most reliant things. Oh, websites like Freelancer. If you're getting started, they're not a bad way to go. They're not a bad way to go to get started. If you are looking to kind of establish a thing when you get, so again, the hardest thing when you get started is establishing a work-based kind of deal. They're not bad to begin with. Some of these places though do take their own cuts. And that's definitely, I can't remember the one that really does it. There's Flex Jobs and there's another one, and then the other one I'm thinking of that does this. But there's establishing yourself in some way or fashion in the beginning. It's not a terrible idea. I wouldn't stay there. And if you have the luxury of not going there, I wouldn't necessarily say go there. But if you're just trying to get yourself started and established, there are worse ways of doing it. It's not necessarily, I wouldn't say it's necessarily the best way, but it's not necessarily the worst way either. So it depends on, again, your service. What are you providing? Any more questions, folks, before I get to the final spiel? By the way, I hope this was helpful for everybody. So I hope this was useful. Same thing, tool. It can be, but it inevitably it's a dead end, but at the beginning it can be a tool, right? It can be. I mean, again, I'm not. That was what I was thinking of. Trying to think of Fiverr. It can be, but it's, again, they do take their cut. They do take their cuts, and so you have to kind of. So again, trying to assess the hardest thing about this, besides the mental mindset, is getting those first few jobs. Because once you get your first few jobs, you can actually build from there. I guess I should talk about this too. Cold emails, because everybody wonders, like, why do you do them? Because sometimes they are very, very useful. Cold emails, ad copy, these are sales concepts. They're not bad things to learn as a creative. Cold emails, yeah, kind of scares you, huh? But here's the thing, you lose nothing asking. And I've learned this doing my podcast. I've had the opportunity to read Kelly Armstrong, Spider Robinson, people like that have come onto my show, and all I did was ask. That's all it took. Right place, right time. I asked. Right, asking is very powerful. It's now with cold emails. That's what you're doing. You're just asking, hey, I got this really cool service. Can I help you? Pro, because you need a platform. Like, here's the thing, Octagarth, you do have your Twitch channel, right? You do have your Twitch channel, and you do have your ability to do Twitch stuff. The thing about Twitch is, this is a platform too. You could, if you wanted to, devote the beginning and the end of your time on Twitch talking about your services for about 2-3 minutes. People would understand, right? People would understand. And then you get to the work you do, right? That's another way of doing, that's another way of advertising. And it's just something really simple, is that you have a platform. Newsletters are great because you can go in there, again, you can practice some of the skills I'm mentioning right now, right? Going out there and selling your services to people you respect and love. Now, they don't want to just hear sales pitches, but that's part of the game, right? And there's a lot of methods to do this. And so I say it's way more pro than con. So, actually, I do have one last thing, and let's talk about audiences for a second, because this might be useful not just for this, but for going forward. But is there any more questions before I get to that point? All right, I'm just going to talk about it, and then we'll get there. Yes, absolutely, Fantasy, and you can totally do that. Like, there is that possibility. If you are going to do that, okay. So I'm going to answer Fantasy first. So there, yeah. Yes, absolutely, Fantasy. Like, that is not a bad idea. If you are going to do video advertising, I'm just going to recommend 30 seconds to a minute max. That's it. Just keep them short and sweet. If you can keep them short and sweet, you can do a quick little blurb at some point in your show, and it doesn't hurt, right? And just be honest with your audience. Again, communicate with your audience. Hey, I'm going to put in some ads here and there to promote my business, right? Some people are going to be like, yay. Some will go boo. But if they know it's there, they're going to, if it's only 30 seconds, they're not going to mind. Now to answer Author Square's most valuable tool, connect is definitely the best thing. I was very fortunate in my case. I have a platform I've been working on for a very long time. My podcast is over 800 episodes. It's won awards. It's been nominated for awards. I'm listened to all over the world. So it has opened doors for me that the fact that I know how to put some of these skills together. Again, I've worked for companies. I've worked for other people to do this. And and these connections have opened doors for me to get various kinds of work. So always never be afraid to network. Never be afraid to say, hi, I'm Sarah and I'm awesome and made of cheese. Or hi, I'm Josh and I'm awesome and made of cheese, because that will work. Finally, so I'm going to go to touch 2 points here, and then I'll take some more questions before we wrap up. First thing, and the reason, again, I go back to choosing what you love, but here's the other reason why: you can be authentic about it. I'm pretty much what you see is what you get. I think people listening to this can tell, like, I'm a pretty straight shooter. This is who I am. I'm not trying very hard. I'm not trying very hard to be anything other than myself, because that's who I am. I look at it this way: if you are interested in what I do, you are going to come talk to me. Okay, you should not be made of cheese. Can we compromise, Author Goddess, and say ice cream? Ice cream's good, right? Even if you're lactose intolerant, you probably still like ice cream. So, but the thing about it is, you have to be very honest. You have to be very honest with what you offer. You have to believe in it, and if you're authentic can feel it. People just know, right? And that's something that is, I think, one of the most important things. My biggest 2 quote unquote sales draws are: I'm consistent and I am exactly who I say I am. I don't BS very much. So, or at least I'm entertaining about it when I do. So there is that, all right, and that's important. And that's why choosing what you love, because you'll probably be your most genuine, best self, right? I tend to look at it this way. I try to be as honest as I can, but even I can screw up there, Author Goddess. I totally can be. So it's one of those little self-deprecating things. Okay, so here's the second point. This is something I want you guys to think about. And I call this, for lack of a better term, the Disneyland experience. And this is what I mean by this, okay? So there's many different kinds of audiences. And this is what it applies to. So when you go to Disneyland, and you get to the end of the park, you're done this experience, you get to the souvenir shop. You know darn well that those souvenirs in there are about 5 to 6 times more expensive than what you get at that Disney store. But people buy them anyway. Have you ever thought about why? And this is important. I want you to think in these terms a little bit too. There are people pay for experiences, and they will pay anything for experiences. And I mean anything. If you create a good enough experience, people will pay top dollar for it. Another good example of this is Kiss's autobiography sold for like $200 and had hundreds of thousands of people buy it. Yes, they're Kiss, but it's the experience they paid for. There's an audience that's what they are looking for. And that is something, when you figure out your price points for your audiences that you are trying to target, what is your Disneyland experience? What is the ultimate best thing you can deliver? This, by the way, doesn't just apply to freelancing. This also applies to your books. Because honestly, like, a lot of us think about trying to price our books to as many people as possible. And there is an audience for that, for sure. And you should not ignore that. But there's also an audience that will pay for this really cool, one-of-a-kind experience. And yes, I can mention, you don't even just mention the Brandon Sanderson Kickstarter. Look at any Kickstarter. Look at the top, like, crazy tiers. These are Disneyland experiences that people legitimately pay for. And the thing about that is, you don't need very many people to pay for them. So when you think about your business, your books, what's your ultimate Disneyland experience? Something to consider because there is an audience for it. All right. More questions? I'll keep dancing for another minute, and then if I hear nothing, I'll wrap this bad boy up. Hey, all right. So I'm going to plug my services and I'm going to wrap this up because this is a freelance panel and I should. So, ladies and gentlemen, I do one thing people remember, that you're worth it. You do what you love and you're great at it. Chances are you're amazing at it, whatever that is. And never, as a culture, we sell ourselves far too short. In this game, and again, it's the biggest pitfall, you're worth it. You really, really, really are. And you got to treat yourself like you truly are worth this. But that means you're going to have to fight for it somewhat. And that's going to take, it's going to take some steel. You're going to have to be willing to walk away from some people as a result of this. But if you can do that, if you have the courage to do that, sooner or later you are going to find people who believe in your worth as well. And when you find that, you're going to be fulfilled. You're great. Everybody here, you're great. Don't sell yourself short, ever. Don't make the mistake a lot of people make, that they have to be like everybody else. No, you don't. Be like you, whatever that is. Okay, fun little pro wrestling story, and we'll wrap up. My favorite wrestler of all time is Macho Man Randy Savage, all time. And there are YouTube videos about some of his videos. But if you want to look at it from a sales point of view, that guy was able to make millions of dollars getting people to leave the comfort of their own homes to come to those arenas, pay for a ridiculous side of beer, right? For beer and pretzels and hot dogs and you name it, pay all of these overpriced prices to watch him, right, do a choreographic fight with somebody else. Why? He sold the experience because of how authentic he was when he did those interviews back in the day. He was great at those. And he was able to talk millions of people into coming into the building because of who he was. He believed in his worth, and you must do the same. I think that's a great spot. Does anyone have any more questions? Going once, going twice. We're gonna go 15 more seconds. Yes, it did, because I want you to believe that this is about the mindset, but it's also about your heart. Like, this is hard. At the best of times, this is hard. But you've got to look at yourselves honestly and say, I am worth this. And that is one of the hardest things to acknowledge. We have this tendency to look at what we do and say, sell yourself short. Most of you have published books. Most of you have put your blood, sweat, and tears into what you do. And honestly, you're courageous as hell to do that. That takes guts. And I don't think you realize how much. That's part of the problem. To do this, you're going to have to change that. It's the biggest mindset shift you're going to have to do. That belief in yourself, that belief in that there's abundance out there, that belief that no matter what, you can find work. Yes. Take one thing away from this panel, I hope everybody does. You're worth it. You have amazing stories, each and every one of you. You have a journey that's one of a kind. It's yours. Nobody else has that. You have experiences and value, and you always will, no matter what anybody tells you, right? So this is me telling you this. Yes, you are worth it. Now, saying all that, getting to that is not necessarily an easy thing, right? And again, who's your audience? Who do you want to serve? What can they pay? And obviously, there are all kinds of strategy things we did not get into today. This was about mindset. Now, strategies, because there's so many class ways you can choose as a freelancer. I mean, there's not enough justice to do it. But whatever you choose to do, research your craft. Research. If you're great at it, be great. Be that expert. Be great at it. Don't sell yourself short. So let's get to the nuts and bolts here. I'm going to do a little bit of a promo here. This is my promo. I'm doing advertising services. This is eventually going to move to its own webpage. My rates are going to change. So everybody here that is here right now, if you say to me in an email, if you decide to use my services, that I was at this conduit event, you will get these prices. They're going up Monday, but you will get these prices if you do decide to do this. If you want to contact me, you can contact me through the Discord. I'm also going to put my email here. Right? Just going to put it out there for everybody that wants to watch it, listen to it, hide it. I will, like I said, here's my service in a nutshell. I will interview you kind of like I do on the podcast, a little bit more formal, but like I do. Get your story out there and build your brand. I'll help you do that. Now, I will not advertise for you because that's to me is my own personal. That's a little bit of my own personal living hell. But I will help you build your tools so that you can advertise yourself. So if you want to do that, you can do that. Now, for everybody watching, everybody listening, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. It was great to have you guys. I'm glad, hopefully you all got something out of this. And again, I'm going to reiterate this. You're worth it. In the days and months and years to come, their biggest struggle is going to be to believe that. But you are. Never doubt that. All right. My name is Joshua Penteloresco. It was a pleasure to talk to you all. Have a good day. Stay inspired out there. All right. Stream is now over, folks. So go ahead and get ready to go to your next, whatever your next panel is, go to it. Pleasure, guys.